Well, it's been a whirlwind to start 2024, and it's really an understatement with all of the entertainment news that's been going on throughout the various methods of social media. And it kind of started with something that we didn't really talk about in any of our previous shows this year with Cat Williams and what he did on his episode of Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharp. And in dealing with this topic of entertainment, we're going into one of the 10 areas of people activity as documented by our elders and our esteemed ancestor, Nellie Fuller and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. And here you can see those 10 areas of people activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor law, politics, religion, sex, war. And Dr. Francis Cress Welsing added the 10th one in health. And here today, we're going to deal with entertainment. And normally, we don't really like to get into too much of entertainment, but it is a necessity because it is an area that people focus in on. And oftentimes, this is one of the areas that dominate our attention span as Black people, and not just Black people in general, but all people focus a lot of their attention on entertainment. Um, Black people, often, especially when it comes to things that are serious as it relates to our culture, our conditions, we often let, entertainers dominate the airwaves, and their opinions are often taken very seriously. Whereas in other communities, for example, in the white community or the Asian community, they do not seriously look at the opinions of their entertainers as advice or as some type of a scientific knowledge. They look at their entertainers for what they are, entertainers. And often the entertainers are not even approached to give their opinions on serious issues like entertainers are propped up in the Black community to do. So we saw, what Cat Williams had to say in his uh, revealing of the truth of, the industry and the different comedians that he's worked with, from Kevin Hart to Steve Harvey, and all the things that he had to say. And a lot of it was necessary because we've said for years that there's been a lot of weird things going on in that industry. And Cat Williams, being in that industry, knows the ins and outs of it. And, he told the truth that he had to tell. But we've also seen now that because of the viewership that Shannon Sharp's video has gotten, we've seen it bleed into other industries where people are also trying to mimic what Cat Williams did in so-called telling their truth. You have these different celebrities that are, speaking different things. And one of the things that caught my attention this week was the feud between Jason Whitlock and Stephen A. Smith. Now, when we classify here at African Liberation Media, I'll speak for myself and I'll let Baba Makaru give his opinion. But in my opinion, Jason Whitlock and Stephen A. Smith would be considered, two Negroes in the celebrity class that we really should not pay much attention to. And, Baba Makaru has a nickname for Jason Whitlock. He likes to call him Jason Whitelock because of oftentimes the shield that Jason Whitlock wears to protect white people. But when I listen to Jason Whitlock, even though I don't agree with everything that he says, and I don't think any man should agree with everything that any man says. Otherwise, you wouldn't be a man, because you have to be able to use your brain and think for yourself. But when I listen to some of the things that Jason Whitlock says, as some people like to say the statement, a broken clock is right twice a day. Jason Whitlock actually touches on a lot of issues that are problems with our community. And one of the things that he touches on in a lot of his episodes is the issue of over emotionalism amongst black men. And a lot of this is due to uh, the feminization of society, the feminization of the black male, and a lot of single parent homes in the black community where black men are not really learning what manhood is. Jason Whitlock also touches on issues that people like Stephen A. Smith and the mainstream media promote, such as this COVID that happened over the past uh, 4 years.
There's a process to emasculating men. And Stephen A. is part of that process. He's been chosen. And that's why, again, when they need certain things said, he's willing to say them. If they need someone to go on TV and promote the vaccine, Stephen A., ready for duty, sir. Black people aren't taking the vaccine. Let me show up on national TV and let me get my bearings here. It's SOT number 5. I'm a little early on this one, but SOT number 5. This is Stephen A. Smith reporting for duty. They need someone to convince black people to take the vaccine. Stephen A. Smith reporting for duty. Play the clip.
Let me be very clear about something. I fully understand where LeBron James is coming from, right there. And I respect that man immensely for what he had to say. Because we know the shameful history this nation has with what was essentially medical experimentation on black folks. I understand wanting to keep medical issues private. I was right there with LeBron on this. But let me be straight with you about something. In the interest of full disclosure, after long, hard thought spanning the last few months, I've decided I am getting the COVID-19 vaccine. And I'm doing it today.
He's also not afraid to talk about the LGBTQ agenda. So, in a sense, there is some sort of manhood inside of Jason Whitlock, even though he does, have a white conservative ideology for the most part. That is his political preference. On the other hand, we have Stephen A. Smith, who will push all of those things against you. Stephen A. Smith, as Jason Whitlock said on his program, Stephen A. Smith is going to be the type of person that will tell you to go out and get the jab. Stephen A. Smith is going to be the person that's going to defend the Jew, as he did when Kyrie Irving shared his post about the movie From Hebrews to Negroes. It was Stephen A. Smith who was the main one attacking Kyrie Irving. So we've seen, honestly, Stephen A. Smith in my opinion, be a bigger Negro than Jason Whitlock. And what we have to do, and when I look at these situations, we have to understand two things. Number one, we have to understand the war and the climate that we're in right now and today, because people like Stephen A. Smith will often try to use sound bites. He'll try to say that he supports HBCUs.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'm an honorary doctorate member. I have an honorary doctorate from Winston-Salem State University because of my contributions to Winston-Salem State. I'm called Dr. Smith. Has something to also do with the contributions that I make because I believe about upliftment. I'm an ambassador for HBCU Week, and I've partnered with Ashley Christopher and Mir Persicki in Delaware and others to generate over 10,000 scholarships, in excess of over $65 million in scholarships for African Americans.
He'll try to make people believe that he is sincerely for black people. And at the same time, he will attack black people harder than most white people on television. At the same time, he will defend his white masters and he will promote their agenda at the detriment of black people. He is put in his place to be a buffer. And this is, what's been pointed out about a lot of so-called boule individuals in the black community in the past. They've been acting as gatekeepers in the black community, where they promote this ideology of black success and black wealth in the United States, when in reality, they are put there to make sure that black people never achieve the ultimate level of success, which is power. And as long as we can stay in that position up under white people, then they've done their role. On the other hand, you have a Jason Whitlock who, even though he's speaking some truths about manhood as pertains to black men, even though he's speaking some truths about certain black individuals being unqualified for the roles that they're in, even though he's speaking the truth about certain black behaviors becoming a burden to society, we know that Jason Whitlock also never would want black people to achieve power over white people. Both Stephen A. Smith and Jason Whitlock want to exist in a world where white people rule supreme, black people are under them, and they can continue to thrive in their roles in the United States of America as it exists today. And from my position where I'm standing, both Stephen A. Smith and Jason Whitlock should be looked upon as enemies to African liberation. Because even though on one hand you may say, well, as black men, we do need to, be less emotional. We do need to deal with the effeminization of the black male. We do need to have more accountability. We do need to have more integrity. These are all things that we do need to do as black men. But at the same time, you'll never hear Jason Whitlock say, we as black men need to do these things so that we can develop our own power and be sovereign over ourselves. That's the point that they won't go to. Stephen A. Smith will say, I donate millions of dollars, or I provide support for millions of dollars to HBCUs. I give black men these opportunities at ESPN or what have you. I support HBCUs. But what you'll never hear them say is that black people as a whole should be working towards black power, black liberation, and black sovereignty. So neither one of these individuals are an ally in that realm. They're both adversaries. And when it comes to power, when it comes to African liberation, both of them will rise up to attack you. So I like to call it two legs of the same dog that will bite you if you go against their white masters.
Well, I hadn't followed I guess whatever's going on between Jason Whitlock and Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp. But I will say that I reached a conclusion, I don't know, perhaps 30 years ago or better, that in the United States, entertainment is the opiate of the masses. And this came from the phrase or the quote by Karl Marx, writing in the 19th century in Europe, and he said that his objective was a working class revolution against capitalism, and he said that one of the obstacles was religion, and he called religion the opiate of the masses. People in America, I mean, even though religion still holds a significant position within the American power structure, but today I think entertainment has far eclipsed religion in terms of being something which becomes an escape mechanism, a way that people are drawn away from the day-to-day problems that they really should be engaged in to solve. And I got stand up guilty as charged. I spent way too many years and hours just glued to a television set, or traveling to go to a football game or a baseball game or a basketball game, because just like everyone else, I fell into this trap where it in fact became an opiate, which in fact dulls our consciousness, because it allows us to escape the hard realities that we are dealing with. And it's clearly really since the entertainment dynamic of the American empire launched the blaxploitation movies against the Black liberation movement. That's why that's why this industry was developed, okay, to provide a distraction, to dull the consciousness of people, to get us oriented towards things that would actually diminish our possibilities to become a liberated and empowered people. And of course, I mean, I'm not gonna say that, I was sitting there watching Pamela Suzette Greer, in all of her beauty, a lot of times fully exposed, Shaft, John Shaft, and all everything else that that was going on, but I was still active at the same time. I mean, I wasn't totally consumed by it. But now it seems to me that particularly in the absence, at least at that point, we did have a movement, the Black liberation movement, growing out of the civil rights movement. At least we had something for younger people like myself to become involved in, that allowed us to engage in positive actions, positive activity, which was designed to help liberate our people. Okay, now obviously this movement came under attack from the United States government via the counterintelligence program of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, led by, in my opinion, the most powerful and destructive white supremacists of the 20th century, at least in terms of the devastating impact he had on African people. That is J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar by day, Mary at night. Hoover, he dressed up according to his own people close to him, dressed up at night like a woman, and did whatever. I can't imagine. But anyway, so the movement came under that attack, and some of this is explained in the documentary called Bastards of the Party by Clee Sloan, a former member of the Bloods organization. Bone, his nickname. Dynamic documentary. Everybody should watch this documentary, Bastards of the Party. And it shows what happened in the wake of the collapse of the Black Panther Party. Black Panther Party obviously under assault from the United States government and the gangs that rose up in the community, along with drugs and all of the other negative vices and what Dr. Wilson called the psychodynamics of Black self-annihilation that led us to the position that we're in today. And the dominance, right? The the monopoly that entertainment had on our minds proved to be so effective in terms of dulling the consciousness and helping to, lead to the demise of the Black liberation movement. It's been expanded, initially, with the music, so-called hip hop, gangster rap, or whatever you want to call it, and the just the proliferation of the N-word and all sorts of profanity and these types of things that we see in the music, see in various media, particularly social media. And so these entertainers have emerged now to really occupy positions within our community that were once occupied by people like Omar Wally, Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King. We're taping this on the 14th of January, of course, his birthday, January 15th, 1929. Kwame Ture, Assata Shakur, all of the others. I mean, what has replaced them is these entertainers, right? And so, but even within the entertainment industry, you have, people that have these beefs or disagreements, and it captures a lot of attention. Like I said, I'm not really aware of what situation that happened between Smith and Sharp and Jason Whitlock, but the fact that it does have a lot of attention, I'm sure they got like millions of views, by this whole the Katt Williams exposure and all of this type of stuff. So
And you're exactly right. It takes away your focus from what's going on around the world, and even what's going on around you. When they can get millions of views to focus in on and have social conversations around Katt Williams, then they can take you away from talking about Israel. They can take you away from talking about what's going on with Zionism.
Mm-hmm.
So entertainment definitely shifts the focus, and I agree, it is an opioid of the masses.
Yeah.
You have sports, when you have, things in the news about P. Diddy, or things in the news about what Katt Williams had to say.
Right.
Things in the news about this Epstein list. All these things are fed to the American people so that you will stay doped up on information that will keep you from being focused on the important information, which will keep the heat off of the people in power.
Right. Edward Bernays wrote a book called Propaganda, and I think he's called the father of American public relations. He wrote this book in 1928, and I think this sort of sums up, what is going on. People really are not even aware. He says, this is Bernays now, the conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Well, that's a debate there. What does he call democratic society? Particularly in 1928 in this country. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed. Our minds are molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we never heard of. This is the logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organized. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they are to live together as a smoothly functioning society. They govern by their qualities of natural leadership, blank, blank, blank. Whatever attitude one chooses to take toward this condition, it remains a fact that in almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics, business, or in our social conduct or our ethical thinking, we are dominated by a relatively small number of persons, a trifling fraction of our 120 million. That was, I guess, the population of the U.S. in 1928, who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind, who harness all social forces and contrive new ways to bind and guide the world. Now, I don't, so he's talking in 1928. It may have been a small number then, still could be a small number, but I mean, it definitely is organized. It definitely is organized, and we can see this taking place in many different ways. For example, the extreme censorship, for example, on social media, how certain views, right, are denied public access by various means of technology, and these types of things. How they create, for example, what Dr. Amos Wilson called the production of desire. Okay, make people spend things on things they want, not what they need. That's one of the key functions of capitalism. You spend beyond your means on things that you really and truly don't need, but they have created these tastes in your minds, and they make you want. And of course, entertainers are largely the pitch person, the pitch man, or the pitch woman, who are promoting these and selling these products that they are influencing, people to buy. So I mean, I think this is what needs to be understood in terms of when people do certain things, they don't even understand, why they're doing them. What is it that has caused, this type of behavior to take place? And quite frankly, it's reaching the point now where I think that they are under extreme pressure, because so many of the vehicles they've put in place have come under assault from all different angles of this society. And I think they're even more desperate now to control what people think. So that's why the entertainment industry is constantly pumping out more and more different things to try to just keep people totally absorbed in this escapism.